Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from the Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 1, Coronation. Thank you all so much for coming back and joining us today. Now let's bring in our wonderful cast. We have Eldritch as Khan the Bloody Rizzolo.
Great to be back.
Ash as Queen Dani.
Bow down, peasants. Oh, I mean, hi, guys.
Shane as Umbromancer Zavid.
Good evening, everyone.
Abe as Sir Demirius Serenray's Grief. And introducing Elliot as Reese.
Hi, what's up? I'm Elliot.
Thank you. We're glad to have you here. As always, I'm Lumpy Bronzearm, and I'll be your DM for today. Last season on Tales from Shadow Valley, Lux Et Umbra had set out to the country of Isker, chasing leads as to the whereabouts of Dani's long-missing siblings. Along the way, they used their influence to spread the word of the coming apocalypse, the Conjunction, an alignment of all the planetary bodies in the solar system, a rare opportunity for the dark gods Ergothoa, Lamashtu, and Nyarlathotep to strike. Magics will grow strong and chaotic. Beasts and elementals will become feral and aggressive. Wars will break out and spread. These dark gods seek to release Rovagug, the rough beast, from his prison deep beneath Galarian to devour all of existence. But not if Lux Et Umbra has anything to say about it. Their clues led them to the quaint village of Aberton, a farming community known for its apple orchards, rustic market, and kind residents. On the outskirts of town was a massive big-top tent. The circus was in town. While out adventuring, Khan had not heard that her parents, Veronique and Frankie Rizzolo, had finally achieved their dreams, to break out on their own with their very own circus of wayward wonders. The cheerful reunion was quickly blunted when it was clear someone was trying to sabotage the grand opening night. The ringleader, Thunder, had been murdered, but the show must go on. Lux Et Umbra searched for clues during the incredible performances, ensuring no one else was hurt, and the opening night was a rousing success. Chasing down the murderer to a barn outside of town, the group found whodunit, a halfling named Nemia Bramblecloak, a druid from a hermitage of Gozray worshippers. Her mind had been controlled by a name that, until now, everyone thought was a fairy tale. Ilkana Alanor, the White Mother of Isker. Delving within the druid's lair, it became clear the sinister forces were at work. Beasts corrupted with demonic magics attacked on sight, flanked by mindless undead druids surging with abyssal rage. Deep within, signs were obvious that the druids had been manipulated to experiment and create an army of necro-demons for Ilkana and her master, the demon lord Shax. Having freed Harlock Hamdeal, leader of the Hermitage, from Ilkana's control, Lux Et Umbra was led to the entrance to her lair. Far below, in a long-forgotten dwarven sanctuary, it was eerily quiet. Around her traps they slipped, finding treasures and precious information, maps and clues about the other missing Erion siblings. Within Ilkana's innermost sanctum was her summoning circle and her magical focus, Prince Eredril Erion, Dani's brother. The entry closed itself and trapped Lux Et Umbra inside the ritual chamber. Up from the unholy pool of roiling blood rose the White Mother of Isker herself, Ilkana Alanor. A fierce battle ensued, but Lux Et Umbra ultimately triumphed and took the Banshee's head as a trophy. Can they find the remaining two Erion siblings and save Galarian from the Conjunction? We'll find out this season on Tales from the Shadow Valley. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from the Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 2, They Came From Above. Last time, Lux Et Umbra gathered in Druma for the coronation of Queen Dani. It had been about a month since they saved the town of Aberton from the clutches of Ilkana Alanor, the White Mother of Isker. Their time was well spent. Demirius finished overseeing the renovations of St. Danica's Basilica, a beautiful, quaint church of marble in the Garden District of Druma. Khan had been experimenting with the potency of her alchemical concoctions, learning much, yet still unable to determine the missing ingredient to the blood echo recipe she found in Baldebard's tower. Dani had many new people to meet, as is customary, but none more important than her grandmother, Empress Talandia Addaceril, and her soon-to-be mother-in-law, Magnalane Mithralarm. Zavid managed to magically preserve the head of Ilkana and has learned many secrets from her, his god Cabriri, and his own studies. Gathered together again within the throne room of Druma, Lux Et Umbra entered their carriage and began the royal parade to the site of coronation. The loving public came out in droves to see the heroes of their kingdom and the ascension of a new monarch. The ceremony was beautiful, and many of the friends Lux Et Umbra had made showed up to support. Out from the crowd, Dani spotted a face from her past. Reese, a handsome rake who secretly scaled her tower prison in their youth. The happy reunion was cut short, however, when large orbs of fire streaked down from above, slamming into the cobbled ground. Ever the quick thinker, Zavid realized that asteroids from the diaspora have begun to be loosed, which can only mean one thing: the conjunction approaches. But before he could relay this information to his allies, the meteorites cracked open, and out crawled hideous monsters from beyond the sky. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse presents Tales from the Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 3, The Gardeners of Korvosa. Last time, Lux Et Umbra leapt into battle. Crab-like aberrations and crystalline bats hatched from their meteorite prisons and began to attack the site of Dani's coronation. Doing their best to protect the gathered crowd and their friends, our heroes shouted out orders. Lord Maris, Captain Glove, and General Truebraid maintained order and safely directed the crowd away from the fight. Prince Eredril and Empress Talandia used their magics to protect escaping people. But the druids of the phasing moon, Simus, Enuma, Tifatina, and Rupert, joined in the fray, tearing one craberation to shreds and crushing several crystal bats under paw in a bestial fury. Thinking of her loved ones, Dani quickly had Arwen and Ares whisk away her fiancé and soon-to-be mother-in-law from the chaos. Zavid managed to telepathically parlay with one of the crabberations in its native tongue of Aklo and made a deal. If they cease their attack, they will be fed and kept safe. The creatures agreed, on the condition that the crystal bats be killed. Khan was only too happy to oblige by splitting apart two in quick succession with her magical dwarven shortsword and alchemical crossbow. Ever the dashing romantic, Reese placed himself between Dani and danger, taking many attacks meant for the elf queen. With the burning power of Sarenrae within him, Demirius called down the holy light of the Dawnflower to obliterate the last of the crystal bats. As the chaos of battle waned, everyone took a breath and decided all cards needed to be put out on the table. The conjunction, Dani's siblings, the strange happenings in Osirion, and what to do next. Their new friends, the Crabberations, Tongue Cutter and Brainy, are to be given a safe home with the druids of the phasing moon. The rumors of one of Dani's siblings being in the Hold of Belkzen made the next move a simple choice. Go with Lumbee and Glaric back to Korvosa, warn Queen Cressida Croft about the conjunction, and make their way north into the Orklands. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse presents Tales from the Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 4, The Queen of Korvosa and the King of Spiders. Last time, Lux Et Umbra arrived within the city of Korvosa. They had been teleported via scroll with the help of Lumbee and Glaric. Having a significant amount of paperwork to do for the travel, they soon were released within the city with a writ of sale worth 2,000 gold from the Bank of Abadar. Khan, Demirius, and Zavid decided that a revitalizing spa day was just what the cleric ordered. After a relaxing mineral goo bath and a plasmoid cat paw back massage, they were ready to go. Doing as the Korvosans do, the three took in the sights and the tastes of the town, eating knot bread and elven tacos while they walked down the street. As their friends were distracted, Dani and Reese split off to have a more private stroll in a garden. Beautiful blooms and terrifying poisons abound in this paradise of plants, as long-lost love was rekindled. Dani began to collect a mushroom for Khan when she was surprised by a pale gnome who introduced herself as Jofviel of the Gardeners of Korvosa. Across town, enjoying their knot bread, the three made one last stop to the University of Korvosa's library. Zavid, immediately fitting in with the customs of Korvosa, bribed his way into the restricted section by giving the writ of sale to the librarian. She swiftly showed them the way to the back and conveniently forgot her key in the room as she left. As quickly as they came, they made off with a vast trove of forbidden knowledge. Back at the greenhouse, everyone is introduced to Ketu, the massive Shawanti shaman who carries an axe-bladed boomstick, Istava, Ketu's fox familiar whose fur reflects the moving night sky, and Aidan Stillspeak, current blackjack and legendary hero of Corvosa's Poor and Downtrodden. Khan received a master's class in alchemy from Jophiel, who is famous for finding the cure for the Blood Veil Plague. After nearly a year of head-pounding effort, the secret ingredient for the Blood Echo, the potion needed to pinpoint Dani's lost siblings, has been determined. Powdered gold dragon scales. Easier said than found. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from the Shadow Valley, Episode 2, Season 2, Episode 5, Eel's End. Last time, Lux Et Umbra awoke at the greenhouse, headquarters of the Gardeners of Corvosa. Debating the finer points of bacon versus fakin over a tall stack of butterjacks, Demirius and Lumby decided to have a sparring match. Pitting the champion of Sarenrae against the champion of Abadar, many lessons were learned and a mutual respect blossomed. Their wounds healed by Jophiel's oracle magics, our motley crew of adventurers began to get ready to meet the queen. Lux Et Umbra was led to the magnificent and imposing Castle Corvosa, built upon an ancient Shoanti pyramid. Through the winding corridors they trekked until they ended in the cold and austere throne room of Queen Cressida Croft. A warning of the conjunction was offered to the Corvosan queen, and the long-withered diplomatic ties were rekindled. After their meeting with Cressida, Lux Et Umbra decided to have one last hurrah before setting out into the Hold of Belkzen in search of Dani's lost sibling. At the north end of town lies Eel's End, a series of boats lashed together to form a legal, regulated, and most importantly, taxed riverboat casino. Taking in their unfamiliar surroundings, and after a few drinks, everyone anteed up to some games of chance, the group decided to buy their way into the VIP area and sat down with the high rollers. Their coin purses noticeably lighter, and wanting a little more excitement, Zavid decided to partake in a game of knivesies, a blood sport and staple of Corvosan gambling dens. Using his flexible body and cunning mind, Zavid stood victorious with not a drop of blood spilled. Before they could leave, the security guard Smitty LaBeouf stood in their way.
So we've been fighting ghouls and killing things and getting paralyzed
for
what you've been missing and just watching us move our face, mouth holes and stuff.
Yes. Sorry about that, everybody. We didn't realize that we weren't coming through. So yes, what has been going on this whole time is the party, Lux Et Umbra, decided to use Dani's Shadow Walk ability to quickly travel from the city of Corvosa to Fogton, which is where they're heading. On the way, what they do here is it's kind of like a wormhole, making use of the Shadow Plane's weird geography to get to places faster. But on the way, they were attacked by Leng ghouls, which I'm sure Zavid will talk about once the fight is over. Welcome back, finally, to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley. Season 2, Episode 7, Blood Echo. Last time, Lux Et Umbra had walked through the Plain of Shadow to arrive on a foggy dirt road. From within the mist, they heard a pained call for help. As they approached, Lux Et Umbra discovered a rock slide had trapped an orc hunter and his pet bear beneath a huge stone. As Zavid wiggled beneath the massive boulder, Demirius used his fauchard as a lever while Reese dislodged the slab from above with his massive arms. The hunter was truly grateful and introduced himself as Jazz Rotgut, Dirge's younger brother, which could only mean one thing. Lux Et Umbra was in the right place, Fogton. The weary travelers took up lodging at the Brood Awakening, a communal tavern where all food and drink is free. Run by Dirge's mother Stone, brother Pop, and sister Arya, Lux Et Umbra was welcomed with open arms. Demirius and Khan partook of an old Fogton tradition, drinking a cold one. Fogton ale is famous for being magically icy and refreshing. Reese won an arm wrestling match and a date from Gurkha Kahanui, the reigning Brood Awakening arm wrestling champion. Zavid could not be bothered with any of this and ate nearly his entire weight in various meats. The following day, Lux Et Umbra set off up Mount Fogton in search of the Hermit of Fogton, who is said to possess a powerful alchemical ingredient, gold dragon scales. The path was treacherous, with whipping winds, sliding snowbanks, and dubious drop-offs the entire trek. Finally, at the peak, the snowfall slowed as a small log cabin came into view. A silver-haired dwarf introduced himself as Beat Els and invited Lux Et Umbra inside. After explaining their need to find Dani's siblings, Beat was willing to trade one of his prized gold dragon scales in exchange for one thing: the story of their adventure so far. As Khan began to regale the elder dwarf with tales of daring do, Zavid made a pantheon-shaking discovery just outside. Urgathoa, goddess of undeath, is a usurper, and could herself be usurped. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 8, Through the Dragon Gate. Last time, Lux Et Umbra got to know their host, Beat Els, a little better. It quickly became apparent that Beat, though hospitable and cordial, was hiding something. Zavid prodded the old dwarf hermit until the charade collapsed in a crash of emotions and memories. Beat revealed that he was, in actuality, a silver dragon known as Betelzetrax, and had lived atop Mount Fogton for nearly 1,000 years. He hid himself away to drown in his sorrow over the loss of his mate, the gold dragon Gwenestraja. She had been killed in the crossfire of a battle between Betelzetrax and a young copper dragon named Sipragrod. Beat gave Khan the golden scale she needed from the long-dead body of Gwenestraja. This rare and powerful reagent was the last missing puzzle piece, allowing Khan to craft her greatest creation, the Blood Echo. Upon imbibing the thick crimson liquid, Dani retched and transformed into a huge wolf, allowing her to smell out her missing siblings from vast distances. Beat also shared with Lux Et Umbra access to his hoard, a vast trove of personal journals from all lands and times. Much was learned, from the first-hand account of Arbelladon the Terrible's fall to darkness, to a potential clue as to Mythanar's whereabouts, to an avenue for helping Beat incubate his and Gwenestraja's egg. Before leaving his mountain, Beat had one last gift to offer Lux Et Umbra. Tomorrow he would open his dragon gate, closed for a millennia. What lies on the other side today, not even Betelzetrax knows. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 9, Bryn Bardur. Last time, Lux Et Umbra enjoyed their final night in the quaint mountain village of Fogton. Back at the Brood Awakening Tavern, Demirius, Khan, Zavid, and Dani met with the remainder of Dirge's family, his father Roland and his younger brother Rock. After tasting the Rotgut's newest experimental brew, a nettleberry sour, the group sought out a jewelsmith. Fortunately, Fogton is home to the Wakapaipai family, Rotna, a master of traditional Orcish jewelry, Thradalda, a world-class dwarvish gem cutter, and their daughter Mizimith, a young dwarf child who aspires to fuse her family's two cultures together. The next morning, it became clear Reese had not returned from his date with Gurka, the local cleric. While Khan and Dani were all giggles and smirks, the sheltered Zavid was quick to assume foul play. After all, Lux Et Umbra has a history of dates going awry. Once reunited, the group trekked back up Mount Fogton to meet up with Beat, who greatly appreciated the magical pendant gifted to him. With the Dragon Gate open, Lux Et Umbra waved goodbye to Beat and walked through. When their vision returned, they stood high atop a red sandstone plateau overlooking the Hold of Belkzen. Standing by a river near the gate was an otterman standing as tall as a halfling, mouth agape. After shaking off his shock at seeing people suddenly appear before him, the otterman introduced himself as Tumnith of the Ottari tribe. Introductions would be interrupted by a massive eagle covered in metal armor. A battle ensued with Lux Et Umbra laying low the bird. Upon closer inspection, the armor appeared to be of Orcish make and, oddly, had a stamp in the metal written in Gnomish that said, "Artificers without borders, Cogito Machinus." Demirius made the horrifying discovery that the armor was riveted directly into the eagle's bones, and Zavid found a unique torture device hooked to its brainstem. Taking the bird's corpse with them, Lux Et Umbra was led by Tumnith to his village of Rookery Spires. There they met all the Ottari, along with their leader Kring the Beautiful. After a feast fit for the heroes of the Ottari, Kring showed Lux Et Umbra how to return down to the ground through a long abandoned dwarven fortress. When the moon was high, they entered and were greeted by the sight of piles of dwarven bones. From the dead ruin rose a gelatinous cube, inside of which floated a whole skeleton who introduced themselves as Belinus Toughcourt, a wizard whose contingency spell backfired long, long ago. The ancient undead dwarf ooze explained the fortress is actually one of the lost sky citadels, the most sacred places in all of dwarfdom. As the demonic history of the Sky Citadel's fall began to be revealed, an icy fear ran down Lux Et Umbra's spine. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 10, The Road to Wyvern Sting. Last time, Lux Et Umbra was ambushed within the dwarven sky fortress of Bryn Bardur. A fear-eating demon attacked with a pair of swirling bonados. Aided by their new undead ooze friend Belinus Toughgort, the group fought valiantly. Khan was shoved from a high walkway, taking a hard fall, but parkoured back into the fray, slicing up her foe. As he ain't afraid of no ghost, Demirius cut up a summoned poltergeist in half with a single swing of Sarenrae's grief. Zavid, being a necromancer surrounded by the bones of thousands and using secret forbidden magic, conjured a skeletal ankylosaurus named Earl. The fear demon stood no chance against the ferocity of Lux Et Umbra. After the fray, Belinus led the group down deeper into Bryn Bardur. Along the way, much was learned about the Sky Citadel, the battle that caused its loss, and the history of the quest for Sky. Belinus offered up some of the magical trinkets her ooze has collected over the centuries, and in exchange Zavid gave the lonely undead wizard some much-desired news from the outside world and a discourse in magic. As the group rounded a corner and down a staircase, a cavern opened up before them and a terrifying sight was to be seen. Across a river of slow-flowing lava was the claw-gouged sleeping spot of a gargantuan dragon. However, Belinus claimed to have never seen one in all her time within the mountain fortress. The mystery was soon solved when Lux Et Umbra discovered the dragon's hoard, a room filled with scrying orbs. It did not take long to determine that this was the lair of Gwenestraza, the gold dragon mate of Betelgetrax the Silver. Each orb showed a burial mound of differing kinds, saved 3. Betelgetrax enjoying a cold one back in Fogton, a lone living orc named Gazkul Daemonkilla, and Cyprigrod the Copper, metallized, chained, and furious. With each passing moment, Belkzen reveals its past, its secrets, and its horrors. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 11, The Hunt for Red Orc Toba. Last time, Lux Et Umbra reached the ground of Belkzen. As Dani, Khan, and Zavid discussed the minutiae of breakfast pastries, Demirius heard something off in the distance. Putting his ear to a rock and asking for silence, Demirius's ranger training from his youth came flooding back. Screams, howls, and the sounds of wood smashing. Racing to aid, Dani and Zavid coordinated spells to speed and conceal their movements. It quickly became apparent what had happened. A merchant caravan carrying metal ores and ingots was raided and destroyed, each worker and mount killed. Lying dead near the carnage were a massive war boar and wolf, both with armor riveted into their bones. A sight that had become chillingly familiar. As they sought answers, Zavid heard a lone survivor. Lifting a destroyed wagon off of her with Cabriri's magics, the young woman was delirious and could only speak Orcish at first. Khan helped to ease her as she regained her faculties, and introduced herself as Glasha, a merchant from Wyvern Sting. The caravan had been attacked, and she did not see much. Having a local to give them a good word, Lux Et Umbra hitched the only remaining wagon to Rot Trot and made their way to Wyvern Sting. The massive walled city had dozens of armed guards stationed along the road and entrance. Glasha knew that Chieftain Hunduk's half-man, the only half-orc chief in all of Belkzen, would be interested in knowing about the caravan ambush. Within his fort, Chieftain Halfman introduced himself and his tiefling life partner Shaki to Lux Et Umbra. However, their eyes were immediately drawn to the tall, muscular frame of a golden-haired half-elf man standing at Hunduk's left hand. His eyes gave him away. There was no mistaking Dani's brother, Mythanar Erion. Reunited at last, after a century apart, the brother and sister caught up. Explaining their great need to take Mythanar back to Druma, a deal was struck. Chieftain Halfman will release Mythanar from his service if Lux Et Umbra can find his daughter Toba, who had been missing for 3 weeks. Chasing another lead, the team sought out the Temple of Cassandali of Modern Time Artificers, a church responsible for the Artificers Without Borders charity. Within, they found 2 strange men, a gnome and an orc, calling themselves Sibling Norman and Sibling Grumadiah. It soon became clear these 2 have been under a mechanical thrall. Thinking quickly, Zavid short-circuited their mind control units with the same magic stored within. Norman and Grumadiah were thankful but confused, remembering little of what happened to them. Dani was able to poke deeper by reading their minds, but there are still many unanswered questions. Lux Et Umbra has overturned a stone and uncovered a creeping infestation beneath, within the hold of Belkzen. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 12, Scarwall Day. Last time, Lux Et Umbra awoke within the orcish city of Wyvernsting. Once again, Reese was not in his room, concerning Khan greatly. He turned out to be fine, just a little tied up for a while. Sitting in the tavern area of the Come On Inn were siblings Norman and Grumadiah of the Cogito Machinists. They seemed skittish and left Dumirius with a copy of their holy text of Cassandali, the Book of Artifice. This seemed odd until a note fell out of the jacket. Zavid quickly deciphered the cryptic message from the clever faithful. It was a warning that the city was not safe and to flee before they are noticed by the Artificers Without Borders. The note contained the location of the temple's hidden factory deep in the Kodar Mountains, but also a warning of its intense security. Before leaving Wyvernsting, Lux Et Umbra purchased squigs, large carnivorous bipedal reptiles well adapted to the mountains of Belkzen. While on the road, Zavid looked through the eyes of his ether spider familiar Wisp to get a bead on what was to come. Armored guards and siege weapons lined the outside walls of the parapets. Entry through the front gate seemed nigh impossible. However, Zavid's true-seeing magic showed him traces of an entrance upriver within the shark peaks themselves. As they planned, one of the scrying orbs taken from Gwynestrage's lair began to vibrate, indicating the person within was near. On the horizon appeared a small sheep ranch with a gray-haired orc tending to them in his field. Wasting no time, Khan introduced Lux Et Umbra and showed Gazkul Daemonkiller that they knew exactly who he was. The shocked orc took them inside to share some mutton and a story. He revealed that he was the last weird boy of Gork and Mork, the last living cleric of two long-forgotten twin orc gods. He had been cursed 1,000 years prior, given immortality, but forced to watch as his people slowly abandoned Gork and Mork. Lux Et Umbra explained much to Gazkul and learned much from him in return. A massive albino squig, fitted with mechanical parts, had attacked his sheep, but the old orc still had enough fight in him to take it down. It quickly became clear that the Cogito Machinists had been rapidly advancing their technology, a most worrisome development. Quickly making their way back to Wyvernsting to warn Chief Halfman of the dangers of prosthetics given by the Artificers Without Borders, Lux Et Umbra set in motion a plan to covertly disable the mind control units. Through magical travel, they made their way back to the foothills of Kodar, where they were set upon by two massive wolves, complete with mechanical body parts. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 13, The Artifacts and the Fury Dragon. Last time, Lux Et Umbra's arboreal hiding spot had been found by vicious canandroids, huge wolves with metal limbs and mechanical body parts. Utilizing her newly learned orcish magic, Khan hurled herself out of the tree and into battle, inspiring and toughening up her allies. Spy birds with mechanical eyes were released from the metal wolves during the chaos, but Reese managed to bullseye them both with his longbow before they could escape. However, small walking bomb bots were dropped as well, leaving trails of fire in their wake. The technologies of the Cogito Machinists have been advancing rapidly. Dumirius's blade shone bright in the sun, giving Gazkul an opening to kill one of the canandroids. Zavid made swift, merciful work of the remaining mech beast. Khan quickly performed field autopsies upon the canandroids to learn what she could to gain any small advantage. Knowing they needed to go upriver into the mountains, sight unseen, a plan was hatched. A little magic, a hollowed-out log, and one woolly distraction later, Lux Et Umbra was marching beneath the river's surface towards their goal. Once ice began to form above their head, Dumirius punched through and all went ashore. Zavid quickly found a set of tracks of all kinds. Following the footprints, Khan spotted a doll in a snowbank. A doll of a small, red-skinned orc girl with horns. Toba Halfman. Up the side of the mountain they climbed until a massive glacier came into view with a guarded entrance at its base. With a perfectly aimed rock, Zavid triggered an avalanche, burying the guards beneath several tons of snow. Lux Et Umbra quickly made their way into the mountain lair of the Cogito Machinists. Sneaking around, the place seemed somewhat empty of people, except a few straggler guards and an unobservant quartermaster. The bizarre and apocalyptic dogma of the Cogito Machinists began to come into focus as their stained glass and statuary were found. Metallic angels coming down from on high, performing miracles before gnomes, cogs in the sky, and spirits ascending from their bodies to the stars above. Having donned their found robes, Lux Et Umbra took on the artificial smiles of the followers of Cassandali. Following Zavid's example, the group made their way through the compound, tricking guards and making their way into the private chambers of Dr. Garwinkle. Reese found a letter and had Mythanar translate. The contents shocked everyone. Not only do the Cogito Machinists know of the conjunction, they are actively working to bring about the release of Rovagug. Even more distressing is that Cassandra Lee, goddess of information herself, appears to have allied herself with the dread Cabal. Toba must be found. Ciprogrod must be freed. Artifex Glastwick Finibus must be stopped. Welcome back to the Bard's Playhouse Presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 14, Fury of the Machinists. Last time, Lux Et Umbra made their way deeper into the lair of the Cogito Machinists, a cult of machine worshippers bent on bringing about the destruction of the universe. And I accidentally minimized it, sorry about that. Half-mechanical guards were stationed watching workers load coal and ore into the largest blast furnace they had ever seen, large enough to fit the egg of Betelgetrax and Gwenestraja easily. The avalanche triggered by Zavid caused a cave-in, destroying the minecart tracks that spanned a flowing river of magma. Absent was the normal large regiment of guards, having been sent to investigate an invasion of sheep and some kind of ruckus in the upper wings of the fortress. Not missing a chance to show off, each member of Lux Et Umbra crossed the lobby, rode minecarts to the depths. A strange forging laboratory came into view. Indescribable tools, bizarre blueprints, and massive negatronic capacitors dotted the room. Most foreboding of all was a 4-foot-high button of red glass, marked Do Not Press. Though temptation gnawed at his mind, Demirius held firm and did not, in fact, press the button. Beyond the lab were several personal quarters, small, identical, and with no personal belongings. Beyond a locked door was found the operating room wherein the members of the Cogito Machinists underwent their negatronic prosthetic surgeries. Zavid made away with Dr. Garwinkle's omnibus and burned the rest. It quickly became clear that this fortress was built inside a long-abandoned dwarven settlement. And so ancient, in fact, it contained a shrine to the first war of binding. An anvil carved with the unholy symbol of Rovagug, surrounded on all sides by effigies representing an unlikely alliance of deities. Good and evil, lawful and chaotic, all joined their powers in the force of their faithful to bind the rough beast beneath Galarian. It seems the followers of Cassandra Lee are attempting to reverse engineer the original binding ritual. Digging deeper within the lair, Zavid found his own temptation in a pile of pilfered gold from the people of Belkzen, but stood firm in solidarity with Demirius. Within a lone chest, locked behind a thick iron door, Khan found a single tome, the blueprints to a truly massive, rideable, mole-like digging machine. She was only able to take a cursory glance before steam began to hiss behind them all. From the ceiling was lowered Artifex Glastwick Finibus in a mass of wires and tubes. He pontificated his extremist dogma of forcing the world to ascend from their physical bodies as he took to the controls of his masterwork mechanical monstrosity, the Behemoth Mark III tread-bearing battle vehicle.
Screw it. We saw the new
The Bard's
screen.
Playhouse presents Tales from Shadow Valley, Season 2, Episode 15, Fury Unleashed. Last time, Lux Et Umbra faced off against the full onslaught of Artifex Glastwick Finibus and his mechanical monstrosities. Steam hissed, fires burned, and negatricity hummed throughout the laboratory as the Behemoth Mark III tread-bearing battle vehicle came rumbling out from behind a blast door. Demirius stood strong in the face of the massive machine, putting the fear of Sarenrae into the graying gnome. Bombbots waddled across the floor, leaving trails of fire in their wake as they exploded upon impacting any surface. Flinging electricity at Reese and Zavid, the tank slammed its bladed scoop into Mythanar, but it was only a distraction. Khan quickly scurried up the back of the metal contraption, and using her mechanical mind began to yank out any important-looking wires. As sparks began to fly from the tank, the Artifex called out for help from a nearby member of the Cogito Machinists, sibling FR-46. More machine than orc, the faithful of Cassandra Lee wheeled himself into the fray, smashing their cog-covered great axe into Zavid. Remembering how he freed siblings Norman and Grumadiah, Zavid freed FR-46 from their mechanical mind through his mastery of negative energy and extensive study of gnomish tech. As the tank took significant damage, it limped away while a missile-covered gun turret raised from the floor, the artifacts at the sights. The newly freed FR-46, fragged to their friends, pointed out some weaknesses in the turret's hull, weaknesses that Khan was more than happy to exploit with her calchemical acids. The Burn RS turret drained the power from the nearby negatronic capacitors as it released a massive wave of power. Only Mythanar took the full brunt of the damage as the turret's onslaught became too much. The artifact was whisked out of his seat into his flying command pod as he fired heat-seeking pin missiles and guided bomb bots at everyone. Demirius grabbed Khan and hurled her onto the side of the whirring contraption as she stabbed her Gladius in. Mythanar in his raging giant form snatched the metal orb from the air and held it to the ground. The group dogpiled on, but powerful magnets pulled the command pod away as the behemoth and the Burn RS were grabbed with robot arms from the wall. All put together into a massive mechanized monstrosity, the Z-0RD attacked with the force of all three. Khan finally managed to get inside the cockpit and stabbed deep within the artifact's chest. As he pulled the self-destruct lever, Khan hit the temporary bridge made by Frag, but Glastwick fell head first into the lava below, claiming with his dying breath that a more glorious dawn awaits. Deeper in the fortress, Lux Et Umbra destroyed the wall, a torturous negatronic energy generator. In the cavern beneath, several mechanomes, barely even sentient, were mindlessly working. Chained at the far end of the cavern was the intimidating visage of Cyprigrod the Fury Dragon. Zavid called upon his shadow powers to temporarily banish Cyprigrod, freeing him from his bonds. Before he began to destroy the workings of the Cogito Machinists, the massive dragon informed Reese where to find Toba Halfman, the kidnapped daughter of Hondux, the chieftain of Wyvern Sting.